Okay, 10 months ago, I visited the Globe and Mail in Canada, Canada's national newspaper, and I was in a town hall meeting and I visited, I got particularly sharp questions from one individual. Went up to him after the speech, I said, "What do you do?" He said, "I'm the director of the innovation lab here at the Globe and Mail." I said, "Can you show me the lab?" And there were about 16, 17 smart young people all in a room, and I said, so the Innovation Lab at the Globe and Mail solves problems for management. Is that correct? He said, yes. What's the number one problem that the Globe and Mail, Canada's national newspaper, has? And he says, I guess over time we don't know what the value of our content is. I said, so what are you doing about it? So he took me over to a young lady, a data analytics person, and she's basically sharing with me their content scoring system. And she starts to explain to me how they score content based on a propensity to be shared on social media, propensity to trigger a digital subscription, propensity to add brand equity. And I sort of stopped her and I said, okay, it's above my head. I'll tell you what, I'm going to call BS on this initiative. That's what I thought. And I said, I want you to take me out to your newsroom right now, and I'm going to point to someone about my age, and I want to see how this is really being applied, because I'm going to expose them as frauds, right? So we walked out to the newsroom, and I pointed to a lady about my age, and I said, tell me about this system. And she proceeded to school me on the deep knowledge that the Globe and Mail newsroom had about the economics of content. The economics of content are simply not what we thought they were, especially as we take it from print into digital. And as we start getting into the reader revenue era, hopefully to replace that print advertising hole, we find, in fact, as I continue to travel the world visiting our members, I found that in Australia, in New Zealand, in Argentina, in Chile, I'm regurgitating a trip I took shortly thereafter, throughout Europe, North America. All of these companies are working on these economics of content, and they think that it's a very unique experience for them, and they're trying to, invent what is true to their values, true to their brand. And as I start connecting the dots, I start to realize, hang on, we need to start surfacing this. We need to create common metrics, common benchmarks, common language. And what we're trying to do as an association, as the International News Media Association, is do just that. Now, if you go back about 20 years, when the first paywall started to come about, you had some true pioneers like the Wall Street Journal really wanted to make money on this. You had others like the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. They put up a $1,000 paywall to protect their print product. And that was a legitimate business condition. Freemium models, where editors basically select which content gets locked, rose in importance. Financial Times comes along, invents the metered model. New York Times comes along and makes it better. And we are a follow-the-leader industry, so we all looked at it and said, meters, that's the answer. And so North America, Latin America, Europe, South Pacific, all came behind a metered model. The problem is the meter didn't work for most metropolitan and local newspapers, or at least didn't operate or succeed on the level of the New York Times and others. And so now we've seen since 2015 and 2016 the pendulum go back to more of a data-infused editor-select freemium model that's really become popular in the South Pacific, sweeping Europe, etc. In Scandinavia, they've created a sort of freemium meter hybrid model. And I think the Americas are starting to go in that direction as well. And so now all of a sudden we're obsessed with this question, what triggers a digital subscription? Every company I've been to, roughly this truism exists. About 10% of your content is driving 90% of your traffic. Oh, I don't know. Do we need McKinsey or Bain to come in to tell you? How do you prioritize more than 10%? And how do you deprioritize, or maybe you park into other platforms like print, the 90%? But we're having an intelligent conversation as an industry on the value and the economics of content, and it's sorely been missing. So we've begun to aggregate, oh my goodness, notice all the zeros up there. Nobody wants to talk about real numbers here. But this is my best effort looking at global brands, national brands, qualities, populars, communities. What I find broadly is that most of us we're identifying where the Netflix line is and the Spotify line is, and we're pivoting up or down. I'm finding in Germanic Europe more premium publishers. They're charging as much as 41 euros, 53 euros for a digital subscription because they're still trying to protect their print subscription price. I think, in fact, I heard this in the panel this morning. This is marketing 101. Marketing is a dirty word. We don't want to talk about that. But I think it's very, very interesting. David, you talked, you hinted at a stack a little bit. I think that there are a number of things. This is where we all started, folks. We just took the dumb print newspaper and stuck it online and stuck a wall around it and stuck a bad sign-up experience around it, and we stepped back and said, okay, does it work? Well, no, it didn't work. It was terrible. But I make the argument that we need to build this stack over time. And we need to get better at the sign-up process, and we have. We have to fine-tune the meter, fine-tune the freemium models. Newsrooms have to get smarter about what gets locked and what doesn't get locked. ABP in Calcutta, India, has targeted the Bengali diaspora around the world and has generated money on that. If you talk to News Corp, if you talk to The Guardian, they believe that digital subscriptions are simply a subset of a broader membership model. We'll see if that works. I'm very interested, Jim, in what you were talking about in some of the donation models. That's also becoming a trend in Spain and Finland as well. I visited Sweden and Norway this last year, and I just want to, on a bulleted basis in my limited time, share with you some of the things that I discovered, because I do believe that there are two epicenters for digital subscriptions on the planet today, and it's Scandinavia, it's the South Pacific. So I'm going to share with you some learnings from there. First of all, what I saw was, you've got to break the experiences down. The New York Times is maybe the greatest newspaper in the world. 99.9% of our members are not the New York Times. Okay, so their reality on a local level is different than quality nationals and is different than popular newspapers, tabloids. What we are finding is that popular newspapers tend to be very low priced and are reach vehicles for companies, whereas their quality newspapers are more, I wouldn't call them premium priced, but they're higher priced and more about the deep reader relationship. And community groups, I've been very surprised. Media is the case study in Norway. You'll see here, I think, in a minute. But look, that's relatively premium priced. And they've got some real success. I think combined, Scandinavia stands out because of the totality of the culture shift. I'm hearing a lot of stories in Latin America where you've got newsrooms who are basically saying, we have nothing to do with that. That's someone else's responsibility. And those companies are underperforming versus Scandinavia, where the editors are a lot of times in charge. And they're pushing down these KPIs and this economics of content. And they're having daily conversations about the art and science of triggering subscriptions. What we're finding, though, is as you look across a broader landscape, different genres of publications are triggering subscriptions. Dagens Nyheter is a national newspaper. Nothing up on that screen should surprise you. But on the community side, it's interesting. They get as much success with live stream B-League Norwegian football with a stationary camera up in the stadium in terms of triggering subscriptions. By the way, they upgraded that and they put another camera in the goal. But I just think we're getting smarter and smarter about what's triggering it. And I think with Dagens Nyheter in Sweden, what stands out is their editor-in-chief is actually in charge. Only newspaper in the world that I know that this is true. Dagens Nyheter, what else is true about them? They have reduced subscriber churn by getting into the micro-segmentation business. This is something we're going to be following as an association. We go to Aftenposten in Norway. I find as they get smarter and smarter about churn and propensity, they're learning, for example, if you only consume Aftenposten on a tablet, you have a higher propensity to churn than if you consume it across platforms. If you only subscribe and consume content in sports, you have a higher propensity to churn. So they're trying to use those basic findings, get smarter, and get people to change their behaviors. They're finding that news junkies, it's all about personalization. Infrequent visitors, it's always about content synthesis. What I find fascinating about this panel so far today, I say marketing 101, it could be journalism 101. What does any of this have to do with digital subscriptions? I get questions all the time. Oh, are you talking about, popular stories? What happens to real journalism? I think that you've got some content that is designed to be shared on social media, some designed to generate PR, some designed to trigger subscriptions, and some content is designed to build brand equity. It's the foundation for all future success. Now, I've gone through this like a machine gun, and I'm trying to keep to the time limits. Let me sort of wrap this up. I think that digital subscriptions is more about marketing 101 and journalism 101. I think that digital subscriptions are at minimum the foundation of a broader stack, at maximum a bigger membership play. I think what I'm struggling with and what my members are struggling with is what is success? The numbers I put on the screen, I don't think most people would understand. Is that good? We don't know yet. I think that there are two games being played, volume versus premium, and, are you going to price based on the market price or to protect print subscriptions? I think culture is a central part of this story, as is engagement. And I didn't really include it, but one of the smartest things I saw was with this Media in Norway, when they said to us, they said, the key to our success in generating reader revenue is cutting out the noise of content and journalism, which I just sort of stepped back and I was blown away that someone would tell me that. But when you look at the totality of the content that you produce, what content is standing in the way of building that reader revenue business? And finally, what a shocker, and I guess this will set up the panel, please get obsessed with the economics of content. It is the new lingua franca. Thank you very much.